Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, July the 2nd. Hurricane Beryl is now a Category 5 storm over the Caribbean Sea. It has perfect environmental conditions to sustain her Category 5 status for at least the next 12 to 24 hours or so. It looks like it'll either directly hit or just come to the south of Jamaica on Wednesday, and then head towards the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico by the end of the week. It looks like after that, it'll continue on a west-northwest track over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. And then at the last minute, I believe there's a chance that it turns more to the north and west. We discussed the reasons yesterday, and I'll go over that again in this video discussion. But that last-minute turn to the north and west opens a door for possible direct impact on Texas. Certainly all residents along the Texas coastline should continue to monitor this system closely over the next several days. Here's the latest imagery loop of using the Goes East satellite system with Beryl right over the Caribbean Sea, and a perfectly symmetrical storm here. That's often indicative of a very strong, very tight center, and indeed the eye can be seen clearly here as it churns rather fast clip, 22 miles per hour to the north, to the west-northwest. This is the island of Puerto Rico. This is Hispaniola with Dominican Republic on the eastern side and Haiti on the western side. And here is Jamaica, and it looks like it'll continue on a track either directly over Jamaica or just to its south. In either case, hurricane conditions certainly on Wednesday. Likely serious damage from this system as it treks to or right over the island of Jamaica. After that, it continues on a west-northwest track towards the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico. Now, environmental conditions are absolutely perfect right now for Category 5 status, and that usually doesn't stay the case for too much of an extended period. I believe once it bypasses Jamaica, it'll tend to weaken somewhat before it hits the Yucatan Peninsula region, but still likely a major hurricane by the end of the week. Well, here's the latest positioning, the official positioning locations of two systems in the Atlantic Basin, Hurricane Beryl, and on its heels there's another system in the central tropical Atlantic. Here we go with Category 5 Hurricane Beryl. It looks like it'll continue on a west-northwest track and come very close, if not right over the island of Jamaica right there, and then continue on a west-northwest track to the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico right there. After that, it spills out over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and I believe late in the game it could take more of a turn to the north and west. At least the door is open for that possibility, something we'll talk about here over the next couple of minutes. This system has less of a chance of intensification as it continues to move on the same track as Beryl, so it'll end up moving over the Caribbean Sea, but with the churning that is very likely right now underneath Beryl, it's likely to bring some colder water from underneath the surface of the Caribbean Sea to the top layer. So in other words, this system may experience some cooler water as it treks over the Caribbean Sea later this week and weekend. So a little bit less of a chance here of intensification, certainly less than what has happened with Hurricane Beryl. Now here's the official storm track as put out by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. They're based in Miami. Again, right now we have a Category 5 system here with sustained winds at 165 miles per hour. That's above the threshold for Cat 5, which is 157 miles per hour. It remains a very powerful storm, slides right over or just to the south of Jamaica by later in the day on Wednesday, and then continues on that west-northwest track to the Yucatan Peninsula by about Friday or so by the end of the work week here. Now again, conditions are absolutely perfect right now for the Category 5 status. Unlikely that that maintains for an extended period of time, so probably by Thursday or so it may weaken all the way down to, let's say, a Category 2 hurricane. but it certainly will be a significant hurricane as it approaches Yucatan Peninsula, again, by the end of the work week here, probably Friday night time frame. Then it'll slide over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and I believe at the last minute here, there's a chance that it turns to the north and west. This is what I talked about in yesterday's video discussion, and we'll talk about it again over the next few minutes by looking at the forecast maps of the pressure field in the western Gulf of Mexico later in the week and especially this weekend. But again, watch for a possible turn from west-northwest to northwest late in the game here over the upcoming weekend, and that opens a door for a possible direct hit on the coastal region of Texas. Certainly all eyes along the Texas coast and even up across the western part, southwestern part of Louisiana. Closely monitor this system over the next several days for that possible turn at the end game here. We're talking about over the second half of the upcoming weekend. Well, let's take a look at the pressure fields as depicted by last night's zero-Z run of the GFS, a conventional version of the GFS. What we're looking at first here are the surface pressure fields here. We have very large high pressure centered over the western Atlantic Ocean. Again, winds flow clockwise around high pressure systems, and that is the driving force for a west-northwest track here by this particular hurricane, Beryl, and also the system that preceded it and the system behind it, both moving on a west-northwest track, again, in large part because of this very, very strong high-pressure system over the western part of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, notice strong high pressure here over the northeastern states, and we'll move forward with these forecast maps here, and let me clear the deck here, move forward, watch what happens as we move over the next few days. There's Beryl near or right over Jamaica by midday or afternoon on Wednesday. And this high pressure kind of slides a little bit to the east here. Notice that. Again, we're looking at the surface maps here. So by the time we get to the end of the work week, that high pressure system kind of weakens and it moves to the east and Beryl over the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico by Friday. And then it spills out over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. And again, from here, I think there's a chance that the track starts to turn a little bit to the north and west. That's why coastal residents, certainly of Texas, have to closely monitor this system. Certainly it will be in a weakened state compared to what it is right now. Again, right now, conditions in the environment are perfect for Category 5 status. That does not usually last for an extended period of time. It should weaken later in the work week, and certainly as it crosses over Yucatan Peninsula, it will likely weaken some more and then spill out over to the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. So let's push forward here with the GFS model run and keep an eye on Beryl here. And this model is now showing this little bit of a turn to the north and west, as I mentioned could be the case in yesterday's discussion. In fact, let's go back a little bit here. See, up to this point, it's moving west-northwest, and then towards the end, it kind of shifts to the north and west. And I agree with this possible scenario. It's certainly something that's on the table again, largely because the high pressure that was initially centered over the northeastern states at the surface shifts eastward. Its influence is reduced by the time this system gets into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and indeed, it could direct it all the way into at least the southern part of Texas, and we're talking about late in the upcoming weekend or the early part of next week. Now, let's take a similar look to the 500 millibar pressure field here again, and all the orange here represents high pressure ridging. Notice at this particular time, kind of centered over the interior of the eastern half of the nation here, right here, as we begin the day here on Tuesday, July the 2nd. This is Hurricane Beryl as represented at the 500 millibar level. Now, let's move forward here and watch again as the middle of the atmosphere, upper level ridge here, the high pressure ridging at 500 millibars, similar to the surface high pressure, shifts a little bit to the east as we go through the next few days. And by the time we get to the end of the work week here on Friday, it shifts from let's say, the Mississippi Valley region, Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley region, all the way to the eastern seaboard. Again, we're looking at the ridging at 500 millibars here. Friday is when the Yucatan Peninsula may be directly hit by a weakened Hurricane Beryl. Then it slides out into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. This is by Saturday, and finally by Sunday morning. And again, this high pressure ridge shifts enough to the east. It tends to open the door for a possible turn at the last minute here to the north and west, because the influence of this high just diminishes late in the game here. And again, that may allow Beryl to change from a west-northwest trajectory to northwest, and that opens the door for possible direct hit on the Texas coastline right in this region. Certainly all residents all the way up to southwestern Louisiana should closely monitor this system over the next several days. Well, let's wrap up by looking at the surface forecast maps. Again, this is using the conventional run of the GFS from 0Z. Beautiful day here in the Mid-Atlantic region with low humidity values, plenty of sunshine. It'll be warm, low to mid-80s for afternoon highs, places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City. But again, dew points, which are a true measure of overall humidity levels, way down in the 50s, which is very comfortable for this time of year. Now let's push forward here and watch the Gulf of Mexico region. Here we go into the day on Wednesday, and then into the day on Thursday. And by the way, it becomes hotter and more humid, certainly in the Mid-Atlantic region, by the time we reach Independence Day on Thursday. And there will be an afternoon and evening chance of showers and storms throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, both Thursday and Friday, and possibly Saturday as well, as it turns hotter and more humid. Now, here's the we'll take a look here at the Gulf of Mexico region as we progress to the end of the work week. And here we go. We'll start to see Beryl right here into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico by Saturday. And again, it is at this point in time that it can take more of a turn to the north and west, and that opens the door for a possible direct hit on especially the southeastern coastline of Texas. Let's continue to move forward here with the GFS model run, and here we go. And it has a weakened, albeit a weakened Hurricane Beryl at this time. It has it kind of jumping up to the north and west, and possibly hitting directly the southeastern coast of Texas. Certainly something we'll monitor closely over the next several days. This is all the way at the end of the upcoming weekend time frame. We're talking about Sunday, July the 7th. And certainly, again, it will be in a weakened state here. Nothing like what exists right now, as it is a Category 5 on its way to Jamaica on Wednesday, and then the Yucatan Peninsula region by Friday, and then the southwestern Gulf of Mexico over the upcoming weekend. A watch for a late in the game turn to the north and west, which opens the door for a possible hit on the Texas coastline. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.